Hello, Internet, and welcome to my review for Sword Art Online Alicization Episode 17. When we last left our heroes, the fight with Fanadio wrapped up in around a minute, and then Kirito used one of the Cardinal teleporting daggers to take Fanadio down to the basement where Cardinal could heal her up, meaning they don't have one for Quinella. So that's a thing. Anyway, they then found Alice on the 80th floor, and they started fighting Alice, and then Kirito and Alice's clash blew up the wall behind them. They were sucked out, and the wall closed up before Eugeo could do anything. Cut the credits. So yeah, moving right along into this week's episode, we open with Alice hanging onto Kirito's hand, who is hanging on to a crack in the wall, trying to, hanging on with his sword to a crack in the wall. She's trying to convince Kirito to just, let her go, and because she'd be shamed by a sinner saving her. It shows us the very honor-based personality Alice has adopted in her time with the Integrity Knights. And I think that's kind of a shame. What we see throughout the episode is that Alice just kind of like the mouthpiece for all of the themes the show's already refuted, which is a tad disappointing. There's a really large part of me that wishes that, Alice's time with Kirito when they were kids, with Eugeo back in Rulid, led her to, in some deep part of her subconscious to kind of, question Quinella and Quinella administrator, whatever you want to call her. And so while she still, believes in administrator, she's a little bit more hesitant than the rest, but she still is very, straight up, the law is the law, and you have to follow the law, no matter what the law says, you follow the law. Which has already been, the opposite of the show's stance from the beginning. And so Alice's, a lot of the conversation between Kirito and Alice throughout the episode, especially in the middle sections, is just kind of stuff we've already seen and told better. Particularly in the infamous episode 10 rape scene that, for all of its faults, got the theme of the law can be wrong done pretty damn well. There aren't a lot more dramatic examples of the law can be wrong than the Taboo Index allowing what Humbert and Riot did. But yeah, so, and that being said, we did not need to have the most particularly victimizing, I guess, clips of that scene. We didn't really need that. That was not necessary. But whatever, it happened. Anyway, then we check in with Eugeo, who just fucking left. Eugeo, it's funny. It's really funny. Eugeo, just up and left and went back up the stairs. Wow. But also, it's a tad out of character. Especially with how peaceful he seems the first time we see him, at least, climbing the stairs. Sure, I get that you trust Kirito, but he just seems so unconcerned in the first little Eugeo scene. Especially given that Alice also fell out. I mean, sure, he trusts Kirito, and he probably trusts Alice, but it's still just a little odd. The second time we see him, though, he does seem more, determined that Kirito will catch up with him and confident in him than he seems peaceful. So I guess that makes up for it, but whatever. Anyway, this might just be my own fear of heights, which is very much a thing that I have. But the whole sequence of Kirito, testing his plan with, sticking the wedges in the cracks and, jumping up, and then, having Alice let go of her sword, or, remove the sword from the wall so that Kirito can pull her up. It's just super tense. Heights. It works really well as a super tense scene, but it's heights, And then after that, we're in the real world. For about 5 seconds for a scene where something maybe happens, possibly, I don't know. We don't get enough detail there to know if anything really happens. Essentially, all that really happens is that some ship that was following the ocean turtle turns away before it was supposed to, and it confuses the guy who's with Asuna and Rinko was her name, I think. Kaiba's ex. Yeah, I don't know what really happened there. But anyway, then we get some more interesting material with Alice and Kirito, besides just regurgitating worldviews the show's given us in much more dramatic ways. When as night approaches, Kirito and Alice see a bunch of gargoyles, see like a ledge in the central cathedral where a bunch of gargoyles are sitting, and the gargoyles are actually a legion of Dark Territory monsters called minions. And that is super interesting. Like, it was a big deal back in like episode 3 or 4 or so that like a small group of goblins had made it as far into the human empire as the End Mountains. You know, the border of the human empire. So there has to be some significance in them being so far up, as Alice brings up, and Kirito brings up, of course, later on. So, like, does this mean that Quinella is working with the Dark Territory? I sure hope not. Because, like, Quinella's not a very morally gray character. She's pretty much full all in the evil section a lot of the time. But her end goal of using the Integrity Knights to beat the Dark Territory is the one bit of, like, light in her character. And I'd really like her to at least have that. That at least her motives, in some form, are pure. She does want to save the human empire, even if it is in her incredibly restrictive form. And I think she loses that bit of moral complexity if she's, like, not trying to stop the Dark Territory and is facilitating their advance. I'd be really disappointed, and I really hope that's not the route they go. But anyway, onto the fight itself, though. The fight, I will say the minions, despite all that implication of, like, future plot stuff, they're definitely the most boring enemy we've had, really, in the entire climb, I'd say. You know, which isn't really saying much, because we've only had, like, 3 or 4. And they've all been really good. So it's not hard to be the most boring. But like Dusselbert and his like explosive fire arrows, Fanadio and her light beams, and gorgeous animation, and then the Alice fights. The minions are just kind of not particularly well animated. They're not like poorly animated, but like compared to the animation highlights of the last like 3 weeks, this week kind of stumbles. Or not stumbles so much as just like doesn't try as to be as showy as the other episodes. But yeah, I think these are definitely the most boring enemy we've had. Despite all that, the very, like, restrictive movement rules, given their setting, makes it super tense. You know, Kirito starts out, he's only on the little, like, this large little pole, and then they make it to the ledge, where they still have a bit more room, where they're still, like, really restrained compared to the minions that are flying everywhere. That bit's really good, even if the minions are not that interesting fighters, I'd say. The repercussions are certainly interesting. But anyway, and here's a real nitpick. So the whole point of Kirito and Alice's climb up is that the only port of entry into the cathedral is either all the way down to the 30th floor or all the way up to the 95th, right? But Eugeo, we cut to him on the 90th floor, and there are windows everywhere, all up the staircase, and we don't see any windows on like the outside of the tower, right? So what's up with that? Why can't they just get through the windows? I mean, like, if the windows were there, but they were just like unbreakable objects like the walls, that'd be one thing. But like, they're not even outside. They're just not existent. I don't know. It's a weird nitpick, but it's a nitpick all the same. But anyway, after another few hours of climbing, Eugeo reaches a bathhouse with an Integrity Knight, whose identity I have gotten spoiled, so you're in for a treat, I think. And I have an idea of how that fight is going to go. We saw him in the OP, so it's not really a spoiler that Eugeo fights him. And fights him alone if the OP is anything to go by, and given that Kirito won't be able to get into the building until he's another 5 floors above, I think Eugeo's on his own for this one. That'll be fun. We're not really seeing Eugeo have a solo fight at all. But yeah, that's really how the episode ends with the new Integrity Knight. So this episode was an understandable step down from the past three. Not every episode can have the animation and action highlights that the climb has treated us to so far. However, it did use its very precarious setting to amp up the tension. Or maybe I'm just scared of heights, I don't know. And we get to know a little more about who Alice is now, though it is a little disappointing that she's just all the moral reasoning the show is against. And we have a new mystery in what's up with the minions being so far into the human empire. Also, there was that weird Asuna scene, which I'm sure will mean something later. Anyway, next time, Yujeo faces off a certain Integrity Knight that is very important to his history. That's a spoiler a little bit, not too much. Anyway, I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you all enjoyed the episode and the video. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe or do whatever the fuck you want. I don't really care. And as always, people, keep kicking ass and I'll see you in the future. Bye!